Okay, so I've got the Tennessee Titans depth chart. I'll just go through it position by position, just give my thoughts on the roster as a whole. So start off with the receiver group. They made a big trade for Julio Jones. They also didn't even have to give away a lot to get him. So I thought it was very worth it. You get Julio Jones. And I don't think he'll be injured next year. Like, I think there's a definite possibility he can be injured. But it's just the Falcons relied on him so much. And I think going to the Titans, a very run heavy team, I don't feel like they have to really throw the ball all the time to Julio Jones. And you can just run the ball and then pass the ball to him and A.J. Brown. And just kind of use him sparingly because you want him to be healthy for like the playoffs if you get there. So I think Julio Jones, like, I don't think he'll be amazing in the stats wise. I think he'll get a lot of touchdowns if he is playing. Just like will really help out this whole offense like so much. Just as one player, and then AJ Brown to complement him. Very good receiver. He's been getting better every single year. Really like AJ Brown. I think he could be their number one. But you got Julio Jones in there, and that's just like an amazing number one and two receiver, like probably the best duo in the league. Just so good. And AJ Brown, just they're both just beasts at getting open on one. So really like that receiver duo. And then probably Josh Reynolds also. Like before they got Julio Jones, the receiver group was looking like one of the worst in the league. But now it's looking very good because you got Josh Reynolds kind of being that third receiver. I think that's probably his role. He's probably more of a third and fourth receiver. That's why I like the fact of them not getting Julio Jones and Josh Reynolds being the second receiver didn't seem that good. But as their third, I think it's fine. And you can use him in the slot. You can use him on the outside. I mean, you can use all these receivers all over the place. I don't think they'll really have a true number one slot, but I think Josh Reynolds probably starts there. And then, like, I mean, Des Fitzpatrick could compete for that other receiver position, but I think he probably just stays at probably their fourth or fifth receiver. Maybe like Cameron Batson gets the fourth receiver role. I mean, I didn't think Des Fitzpatrick was an amazing player coming in college. I didn't think it was a horrible draft pick. I thought he was fine. So, I mean, just gets more competition in that receiver group, and I think he could be a decent fourth receiver or fifth receiver and get some good snaps, I think, this year. And like Cameron Batson also probably compete for that other receiver position. So we'll see if that. And then like the other receivers, see if these dudes can make the roster. Like Chester Rogers, kind of a veteran, hasn't really done much in a long time. Just kind of give him a shot, I guess. And then I mean like Kalaji Lipscomb, yeah, whatever. Racing McMath they drafted, kind of just a big receiver, vertical threat. Like he was a really good special teamer at LSU. So I think he could definitely make the roster and kind of play a good special teams role. And I guess be a bit of a vertical threat. He doesn't have amazing separation. He could definitely move to tight end because he's just not really like an amazing receiver. So we'll see what they do with him. They did spend a draft pick on him, so maybe just a practice squatter straight away, but we'll have to see. And the offensive line, they got Taylor Lewan coming back from injury, one of the best tackles in the league. That'll really help out their offense if he is healthy. Just a really good all-round tackle, just good run blocker and good pass protector. Kind of more of a pass protector, is very good in that role, a good athlete. Taylor Lewan's a good player. And then even like Ty Sambrailo, when he came in last year at points, didn't look horrible when he was kind of coming in for Taylor Lewan when he got injured and like stuff like that. He looked pretty decent, so I think that's a good backup with Tyson Brillo. So that's fine. Roger Saffold at left guard, he's been very solid for them. So that's pretty decent. Get Roger Saffold in there. That left side of the offensive line is good. He's getting older, but he still plays at a pretty high level. And like David Queshenberry is a fine backup also. Center Ben Jones is actually pretty good. He's probably one of the best centers in the league. Good run blocker. Same with like Roger Saffold. Yeah, Ben Jones, very good run blocker. Good pass protector also. Just a really good center. So you like what you got in Ben Jones. A bit underrated, I think. A lot of people don't really talk about him, but he's been a good center. Like Nate Davis also, pretty decent right guard. Probably a bit of a weak link on the offensive line because he's a bit up and down, but overall he's a good guard. And then the right tackle, I mean, their starters either going to be Kendall Lamb or Dylan Raduns. Yeah, Kendall Lamb, they got him over from Cleveland. He was kind of more of a backup for them. I'm pretty sure he'd probably just be a backup for this Titans also. He could definitely start, but I think Dylan Radunes can start straight away. I think he was a good player coming out of college. I like Dylan Radunes. He's a bit raw because, of course, North Dakota State didn't play amazing competition, but I think if he gets some good development and like training camp and stuff and he's looking good, then I think he can definitely start for them and just might be a bit up and down just because of everything, but could maybe be like a pretty decent guard straight away. We'll just have to see. But I think, I mean, Kendall Lamb could start a few of the games and then Dylan Reduce maybe comes in later in the season. Just get him used to the playbook and everything and whatever. But I think Dylan Reduce starts. And then tight end, they got Anthony Ferkser, who's kind of been a good H-back type of role. He kind of played that fullback for them. Pretty versatile player. I think he probably takes over more of that number one tight end role. He's a very good player. I like Anthony Ferkser. I think he could have a good year. Really good at like athleticism. Not an amazing blocker, but he can get it done definitely. And yeah, we'll see with Anthony Ferkser, a good receiving weapon. And Jeff Swaim also got. I think he was in Dallas. Fine number two tight end. That's kind of it really. Doesn't really offer you too much. Just a good number, reliable number two. And then I mean, like Jared Pinkney. I mean Miller Forrestal's like somebody to look out for to make the roster. So I'd keep your eye on him. He was a decent player. So we'll see with him. And then quarterback, they got Ryan Tannehill. High expectations for him this year. He's losing his offensive coordinator. He's looked very good in his last couple of years with Tennessee Titans, kind of rebounding his career after a very rocky time with Miami Dolphins where he just wasn't really that impressive. And he comes to Tennessee, really good for this system, good play action quarterback, just kind of does what they want their quarterback to do in their system. And he just like the perfect quarterback for them. So I really like Ryan Tannehill. I think he'll have another good year. And like Logan Woodside, Deshaun Kaiser, yeah, just that'll just be their backups. I don't really see anything else really switching. Just see who wins the number two. They're nothing special backups. I mean, if Ryan Tannehill goes down, then it probably won't be an amazing situation because none of these quarterbacks are really that good. But Ryan Tannehill's been pretty healthy in his career. And then Derrick Henry, running back, one of the best running backs in the league. You could say the best. Just such a big running back, so physical. Doesn't even get injured. He gets just given the ball the whole time, pretty much, and just stays healthy. I mean, to be honest, he could get injured. I wouldn't be surprised, but he's been pretty healthy in his career. And Derrick Henry, very good running back. I like Derrick Henry, so that's a good number one running back. And I mean, they just rely on him so much, especially with this good offensive line. He's just a monster. It's very hard to tackle. Then even like Jeremy McNichols as a backup's pretty decent. Yeah, he was pretty good when they brought him in. Another kind of power back, to be honest. Gives a bit more speed and versatility, but that's kind of like his backup role. He won't get a ton of snaps. I mean, they got Kyrie Blasingame listed at running back. He's their fullback. He's one of the best fullbacks in the league. Really good lead blocker for them. So I like Kyrie Blasingame. Like Darrington Evans, Brian Hill. Didn't know they brought him in. We'll see who else makes the roster. Probably just going to be Darrington Evans. Maybe Brian Hill. Brian Hill's more of a receiving threat, so maybe they bring him into the roster for that. And nobody really else to talk about. Let's go on to the defense. They got Danico Autry, who they brought in from Indianapolis. Had a very good past couple of years with Indianapolis. Has been a very solid player. So I thought it was a very good player to get for this defense. They kind of just needed some more players on that defensive line to get production. Like, they had some decent players. I just think they needed to get somebody that could get sacks and like get pressure on the quarterback. And Danico Autry can definitely do that. He's very good at beating defensive tackles, kind of being a quicker defensive tackle, smaller D tackle, and play some D end at points. More of a defense tackle, probably be alongside Jeffrey Simmons at that defensive tackle role. I think he'll get a lot of playing time because he's a good player. And then like Rashad Weaver, you could have somebody there. Probably just going to be a backup. I don't think he'll get a ton of playing time, but they don't really got much else. I think he could definitely see some sort of snaps. Woodrow Hamilton, I mean, yeah, I guess nose tackle. Probably going to be more of Naquan Jones, though. That's kind of been his role. Just a good run stopper. That's kind of his role. Stop the run. Even though the run defense hasn't been amazing, he's just a big player to take up blocks. Like Trayvon Coley, we'll see if he can make the roster. That's probably the big thing. Like, he hasn't really been a good player in a while. Kind of been bouncing around teams. So I'm not sure Trayvon Coley, maybe he can rebound his career, but I kind of doubt it. And Jeffrey Simmons been a very good defense tackle so far in his career. Like last year, he was very good. And I mean, I feel like he could just have an even better year, to be honest, this year, especially with the players he's got alongside him. I think they definitely got better on the defensive line. Not all the pressure won't be on Jeffrey Simmons. And I think, I mean, he's just such a good player, like really good rushing the passer, not amazing run stopper, but I mean, just really good player to like get to the quarterback and get himself some snacks. Just sacks. I said snacks. I'm tripping. Yeah, just a very productive player and just kind of a big defensive tackle in that system, and still a really young player. I mean, nobody really else notable like RB Jones. He was decent for some sort of time in Jacksonville. Just hasn't really been anything lately. And Harold Landry be that what their number one edge rusher probably on that. I think he's more their left. I'm pretty sure, or right. No, he's the right edge rusher. So yeah, that'll be his role. And I mean, he's been pretty decent. I mean, I think really bringing Bud Dupree really helps out Harold Landry because it's all the attention's really just been on him. He's just kind of an athlete, and he plays a ton of snaps. So he didn't really have anybody that could come in for him where he could get a break, and he still doesn't really have that. He's probably going to get a ton of snaps also. Hasn't been amazingly productive, like hasn't really gotten the sacks. I think he could have a breakout season though. I think it's definitely possible for Harold Landry. He's still young and he has shown some very promising play. I mean, yeah, and especially I'll just talk about him now. Bud Dupree, who they brought in from Pittsburgh, who I mean is a very hit or miss free agency pickup because he's shown really bad play and elite play. Like the past couple of years, it's been probably elite pass rush from Bud Dupree, but before that, it was just kind of just a guy there, and it could just be Pittsburgh that really helped him out in the system and the players around him. But I think he'll still be a good player in Tennessee. I don't think he'll get as much sacks as he got in the Steelers that one year. But I still think he'll be pretty productive. I think he'll get himself sacks. Also pretty decent in the run game. Just a good pass rusher. Is not like a young player anymore, but still not too old. And I think they really needed to get that other pass rusher alongside Harold Landry. Like Javen Clowney didn't work. He had, I think, 0 sacks. And I don't think that's gonna happen with Bud Dupree. I think he'll get sacks. I think it's a pretty easy bet there. And then I mean for the other edge rushers, they don't really got anything. Like Derek Roberson. Not gonna try and say Adeniji first name, whatever. They haven't really shown anything, to be honest, so I'm not sure. I think they could use another edge rusher, kind of get some pressure off of those edge rushers they already got. So we'll just have to see. Maybe they bring in a veteran. There's still some players out there, or just get another depth player. And it's just gone white right now on the screen. I was trying to talk about the linebacker duo, which isn't horrible. It's not that bad, but I guess I just gotta wait. Refresh. Come on. Reload. Reload. Hurry up. I see you. Yes. Ugh. So the linebacker group, they got Jayon Brown, who they brought back Um, yeah, I think Jalen Brown's still a good player. I'm not sure if he'll be here after this year. I mean, it was just like a 1 year contract, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, maybe he has a really good season and I do re-sign him. We'll just have to see if Jalen Brown, but he's been a pretty solid linebacker up and down though. Kind of the same thing with Sean Evans. A bit of a liability in coverage. Just, I mean, pretty much just not good in coverage. Kind of more of a run stopper and has been questionable at that at points. So I think his job is definitely on the line, especially if bringing in Monty Rice, who they drafted in like the third round. He was a pretty good linebacker coming out of college, was very good in coverage, was just very solid, had good instincts, and was kind of leader on that defense. I think after this year, I definitely think these two are going to be the main two linebackers, and like Monty Rice, I think he will get in for some snaps. Definitely, I think he'll get in as kind of that third or fourth linebacker and get some playing time. And if players get injured or something, you'll see that. Like Will Compton got time last year, who's isn't really a good linebacker. Whatever. Stick to podcasting. And then yeah, Monty Rice, I think future he takes over one of these dudes' roles, possibly next year. And even David Long's not a horrible linebacker. A really good special teamer, good athlete, like really good athlete, and also just a better player in coverage. So if one of these dudes are really struggling also, like David Long and Monty Rice could realistically be better than both of these dudes. They're just probably not going to do that. And then nobody really else, like Skipper Tuzar, whatever. Cornerback group, I mean, their number one corner, can I look? Yeah, they've drafted Caleb Farley. I think he kind of has to start for them, to be honest. Drafted him very highly. If those health risks aren't a concern, it could be a steal in the draft because I think, like, Caleb Farley was my second ranked cornerback coming into the draft. I thought he was a very good player, amazing athleticism, and just good all round cornerback play. And just like had all the instincts and was only his second year, I think, playing corner. Only really his first full year. And just looks elite. So I think you got a player in Caleb Farley if he's healthy. And then for other corner, going to be Janoris Jenkins on the outside, most definitely. Janoris Jenkins was a good corner last year. Has been just a solid corner his whole career. Looked very good in New Orleans. I don't know if he'll be as good in Tennessee. I think New Orleans' system and playing across from like Marshawn Lattimore helped. But I still think Janoris Jenkins is a good veteran cornerback to pick up. You don't really want to rely on him as a number one corner, but as a number two, he's very good in that role. And yeah, Janoris Jenkins, good corner. They got Elijah Molden, who they drafted. I think he could definitely start in the slot for them. He played safety in college, but he played like slot safety. And I think, I mean, they don't really got anybody else that can really play in the slot. And I think Elijah Molden probably does that. He was a very good slot corner. Probably the best slot corner in the draft. Just like pure slot corner. So I like Elijah Molden. I think he starts there. I think they probably got their three cornerbacks there. It's interesting though, they do have Christian Fulton, who they drafted in the second round last year. I don't know what they do with him. Maybe they wait another year, or maybe they start him over Caleb Farley. It is a possibility. Like, Christian Fulton wasn't a horrible player coming out of the draft. So Caleb Farley was a better prospect. I think he'd probably be a better player straight away. But maybe they just see what Christian Fulton can do, or they wait like a year because Janoris Jenkins probably isn't there after like this year, just because veteran, like 34-year-old, only a 1 year contract. So maybe you just wait another year and then start Christian Fulton. I mean, even if he's a number four, he could get some playing time, especially if injuries happen. Like, you never know what happens. You do need four good cornerbacks on your team. So either way, like, if Caleb Farley or Christian Fulton start, I think it'll work out for them. And like Greg Mabin, Kevin Peterson, they'll be decent backups. Like, they got some playing time last year, especially like Kevin Peterson. He came in and didn't look horrible, so I think that's a good backup. They got Brady Breeze listed at corner. He's a safety. He played safety at Oregon, was actually a pretty decent player. Looked pretty good at Oregon. So I think he makes the roster because they don't really got a ton of safety. They got Kevin Byard, of course, at the safety position. One of the best safeties in the league. Really good free safety. So I like Kevin Byard. He's definitely going to be the starter there, kind of the commander of that secondary. And then for the strong safety, either going to be Dane Cruikshank or Amani Hooker. I think Amani Hooker has a very good chance. He's just kind of not really gotten a shot of Kenny Vaccaro when he was there. Same with Dane Cruikshank. They both gotten some playing time. It's just going to be a battle in training camp between these two to probably see who starts there. And one of these dudes I think is going to come out and be a pretty decent player. Like, I think they're both fine, and I think one of them could possibly break out. And like Matthias Farley, he's just a special teamer. So yeah. And I mean, special teams, they got Brett Kern. He's a good punter. Kicker, they don't like Tucker McCann. Who the hell's that? Of course, they have Stephen Gostkowski. It's still good last year. So they bring in a couple kickers. We'll see who wins. Morgan Cox, one of the best long snappers, but whatever. What does H mean? H. Ryan Tannehill. I don't know. Kick returner. Yeah, Cameron Batson's done some of that. I mean, one of these rookies also could do it, like Des Fitzpatrick's. I don't think he'll be a horrible returner. Or one of these running backs like Brian Hill, who makes the roster, has done some kick returns. So, I mean, the Titans roster, very solid. They're probably the best team in the AFC South. I think they definitely are. So they're going to be competing for the playoffs. I think they'll definitely get in. They don't have an easy schedule for the season. Like, they got some difficult games, but that's kind of every team. And I think they'll beat some good teams, and I think they'll just use their run game a ton and be very effective at that. And I think Ryan Tannehill will still play well. So they got their quarterback. Their offensive line's good. Receiver group, you're bringing Julio Jones. What a pickup. Like, you got Derrick Henry, of course. The defense, I think the defensive line is much better. They could use another edge rusher. Linebacker groups, I think, is fine. I think you got 4 good linebackers. And then, secondary is much better than it was coming into free agency. I think they got some decent players. I think they're probably 4 deep at corner. So, yeah, and safety group, I think, will be fine also. And special teams, yeah, if they get their kicking situation under hand, then I think they'll be a good team. So that's Tennessee Titans depth chart, and I'll see you for my last one, the Jacksonville Jaguars, tomorrow.